These are the best 10 social media strategies right now for real estate agents. So you can generate your next 20, 30 to 50 clients. Now, the first one is actually posting strategic content on your Facebook personal profile. This is actually the most important strategy for real estate agents because after helping hundreds of real estate agents, ranging from top 10 real estate agents in the whole country, all the way back to regular individuals and mid-sized teams, this is where a lot of people will get their fastest results with very little time and very minimal effort. Now, in regards to posting this content on your Facebook personal profile, obviously we have a full key content types that you actually want to be posting on your social media. It's not enough just to post something from a tool or post something called AI slop, so posting AI generated content. You need to know the right content types and post them at the right time so you can generate those listings coming in. Now, for this document, we actually have a full guide over here for these content types. If you want to have access to this document, which is exclusive private use in our company, you can just comment real estate social media strategies under this video and it will send this to you for free. So you can click on this right here and actually get access to these types. Now, so the reason why Facebook personal profile is so powerful is because most of your business as a real estate agent comes from referrals and your sphere of influence. So your friends, your family, people that you knew maybe from high school, right? Those are the people you want to stay top of mind of as much as possible. So a lot of people actually, they prioritize getting that new reach, getting those fancy views, getting those fancy likes, right? Getting those new leads, but they forget that most real estate business comes from referrals, comes from sphere of influence. Even if you look at statistics, 33% of listings come based on referrals. So why not take advantage of that, especially considering you already have free access to this for free right now, literally on your Facebook profile. So what should you post on your Facebook profile? Well, ultimately it comes down to something we call strategic personal branding. So what it simply means is you want to be building your personal brand strategically in front of a certain amount of people. So you don't need to be a big influencer, you don't need to be this celebrity type of a person, but you want to be strategically in front of those right people. So that strategic content comes down to posting things like your lifestyle. So maybe you're somebody that likes golfing or fishing, whatever you like. A lot of people actually think that that's like complete waste of time. You should never post about your personal life, right? But in reality, that is the content that connects you to people. So when you post about your lifestyle, right, that is when people get to connect with you and see who you actually are. Now, additionally, you want to post behind the scenes of your work lifestyle, right? So as a real estate agent, there's a lot of things going on all the time. You may have an open house, you may be at your office, you may be at an event, and you want to be posting that on social media to strategically build that brand, strategically show people that, hey, you are the person that's doing this work, but not in a super weird way, right? Where it's this professional real estate agent in a suit, right? And in this 1980s kind of a setting, rather more in a setting where you are a real person doing that work and people get to learn about your work. So really, there's a lot of content types that go into this. But again, to get this document, just comment real estate agent social media strategies under this video and we'll send this to you for free so you can actually dive deeper to it. Now, the second strategy is going to be direct messaging your sphere of influence and past clients for referral generation. So one of the easiest ways to get more business from social media is actually deepen relationships with that sphere. Now, this sounds extremely simple, right? So everybody says like, I'm already calling my sphere, like I'm very good with my sphere. But when I actually ask agents, how are they keeping up with their sphere and how they're keeping up with their database, most of them basically have this very generic automated email newsletter campaign. They have a very generic mailer, or they're posting that AI slop, that AI generated content from ChatGPT that nobody wants to see. And they're basically leaving all the money, they're leaving all the honey on the table, right? All the money is just laying there around and somebody else is taking that. So one of the most important things you need to figure out as a realtor is actually how to allocate your time and focus your efforts, right? Because ultimately this can be incredibly difficult nowadays. We have so many things, right? There's AI, there's new AI tool, right? There's TikTok, we have Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, SEO, so many different things, websites, right? There's all these new things going on, and it's very easy to get lost in all of these things and look for those tiny little tricks when in reality, right, you should just give a single thought into, okay, where do I actually spend my time best, prioritize it, right, and get the best results. And it's a little bit like if you try to lose weight, right? I mean, ultimately, there's all these diet pills or all these different things. But at the end of the day, right, if you just calculate your calories and you keep up with those calories to make sure you're eating correctly and you just simply work out, you're gonna get results. So very similar thing with social media, right? A lot of people try these very fancy things, but what you should first do, right, is make sure you're keeping up in the best possible way with your sphere when it comes down to these emails, newsletter, all these different things where you can stay in front of them. Now, so what you want to be essentially doing at this section, right, is simply messaging people on your social media. So as you know, right now you have a Facebook account, you have an Instagram account, you have a LinkedIn account. But if you ask yourself how often you actually message those friends or connection you have there, right, your answer is probably pretty minimal, right? You're looking at the content, maybe you're consuming the content, but are you actually commenting on their content? Are you looking at their posts, making little comments, making little engagements, liking their stories, commenting on their stories, maybe sending them a quick message every once in a while in a way that is actually personal, relatable, it's actually real. And if you're not doing that right now, that is one of the easiest, no cost ways for you to actually generate more business, stay top of mind, and really be that person. I mean, they're going to keep top of mind because at the end of the day, you could post so much content, right? But if you're really not talking to them, right? I mean, how else are they going to remember you, right? So technically, yes, it's important to post content, but it's just as important to send those messages, especially with that close sphere of influence, because even if you don't post a lot of content, if you simply have a good relationship with them, let's say over messaging, you can still get that business because that will come up often where people say like, I actually need to sell my house, right? And then they'll let you know in the messages. So let's go ahead and take a look at a quick example so you will know exactly what to send in these messages. So here we're going to go scroll down to this part and we're going to say, hey, Jack, I think you're not looking to move, but you're one of the people who always seems to know someone who is. I got a new listing about to hit the market. It's going to move fast. Do you think it might be worth sharing this with someone in your network? Now, from here, right, obviously Jack or Jackie or whoever the person is, right, they're going to answer your message, right? And then from there, we're going to start the conversation. So basically at that point, Jack will tell you, well, we're looking to move, right? Or my aunt is looking to move, or I know this friend from this bar who's looking to move. And the whole point of this message is actually to get referrals. So we're not looking to get direct business, even though that's technically possible, right? But if you think about a referral, that is something that's going to be much more likely when we think about the mathematics, because every person knows 10, 20, 30 people, right? So there's always opportunity there. Now here, these messages, right, essentially we're doing these referral temperature checks. So sometimes people will have referral they're going to share with you, right? Sometimes they won't have any referrals, but if you send a lot of these messages, if you send 10 messages a day, that is 3,600 messages a year, right? Those messages are going to stack up. And then when they do have a referral, right, they're going to think of you. So it's also going to have that very, very long effect over the long time horizon in addition to this immediate business. So another example, hey, know anyone looking to buy or sell right now? I came across something cool. Again, very short message. We're not doing anything crazy. And the whole point is so that it feels personal. It's not AI. It's not our assistant, right? It's something very casual that's going to slip under the radar of their sort of like AI detector. So again, for this document, just comment real estate, social media, strategies under this video, right? We'll send this to you for free so you can check that out. Now, number 3 is going to be direct messaging your social media network. So obviously there's a lot of opportunities in that sphere of influence when it comes down to your social media. But on top of that, there's also a lot of opportunity in your existing engagement on social media. So if you are somebody that is posting actual content on social media and you are getting, let's say, views, likes, followers, or if you have ever run advertisements on social media on platforms like Facebook, right, and you've gotten those people to become your friends on Facebook or likes on Facebook, right? There's a lot of opportunities sitting in that existing engagement that is necessarily not in your sphere, somebody that you know closely. So obviously when we post content on social media, right, our dream scenario is somebody comes in, they see our content piece, right, and they're essentially saying like, hey, I love you, your content is amazing, right, please come in and sign the listing agreement with me, right? That is something that happens to our clients all the time. However, one of the things you want to keep in mind, right, is patiently waiting and waiting for that thing to happen is great. But at the same time, right, it does take a little bit longer and it's not as common as, let's say, if you were to also do some outbound, you were to send some messages. So if you want to get fast results, a lot of results, right, the more conversation you have with people about real estate in general, well, the more deals you're going to close. That's the law of averages, right? So what you want to be doing on top of sending messages to your sphere is also send messages to people that like your Facebook ads, that become your Facebook Reel viewer or liker, right? That share your likes, share your posts, right? All these different things. So there's a lot of opportunity on top of that in also messaging there. And again, for that, we'll already have the scripts in this same document you can check out. Now, let's go to number 4. So number 4 is going to be Instagram and Facebook stories. So a lot of people actually post Facebook posts or they make these long videos, but they forget to post stories at all. They don't post Instagram stories or Facebook stories. And it is super important that you also post this, especially if you're doing platforms like Instagram, because on that platform, a lot of the conversion happens on the story side. So it basically opens up the loop for people to message you in the direct messages. So what do you want to be building on your stories? What is something you want to be posting? Well, there's a couple of different strategies, right? Number one is obviously the behind the scenes content we already covered. So essentially to build that parasocial relationships, right? To build that connection, but also build that credibility. Now, on top of that, what's really good idea is to do story posts to activate people. We already covered this in previous videos, but essentially what you want to be doing is to post different polls about things. As an example, you may have a property and you want to ask people's opinion, and there's also something we call conversion story polls. So when you post a story that has a poll, that goal is to essentially drive people towards the sale. So the poll itself will actually qualify people, and then those people that are interested or in the market, they're going to turn it into a lead that you can now contact. So something like this we already covered here in this document. So common real estate social media strategies, and again, you can check out those stories and how to actually post them for free, and you will see exact document for that. Now, number 5 is going to be property tour reels. So at this point right now, if you don't have a lot of people viewing your content or seeing you in the first place, a lot of people get stuck in this loop where they're like, well, I don't have any leads. Like, how do I get people to see me, right? One of the biggest mistakes I see people do is that they go ahead and purchase leads. Like they go ahead to Zillow or buy Zinc leads or whatever the case may be, and they always run into the same problem, right? Where people are low in quality, they have no idea who they are, but it also takes a bunch of money, right? So they lose money in the process or just make a very small amount of profit. So one of the best strategies right now on social media to use is actually property tour reels. And what these reels essentially are is you post videos about interesting properties in your local market, and that's going to drive up the viewership of that video. And essentially the beauty of that is that you don't need to be this very beautiful lady or very handsome man. Like all people really care about in the property, just seeing interesting properties right in their local area and presenting them in an interesting way. And if you can find those nice properties, putting them into a nice package, right, you will get viewership on that. So for that, we have full SOP on how to actually do these property tours in this document. So you'll be able to see that right over here in this 5th section. Number 6 is local community reels. So everybody obviously lives in a community, right? We have all these people living near us, but essentially one of the biggest problems people run into is that they don't really know what's happening in that local community specifically, right? We obviously have the big news outlets, right? Big newspapers, right? All these different things about the nationwide level, but the local newspapers are not really the ones that are going to be telling you the best restaurants, best thing to do, best events right now for parties or things like that, right? Those things are basically very difficult to find. So what you want to be doing as a real estate agent is sort of become that local go-to person when it comes down to those things. Because the thing is, one of the biggest things you can do, right, with that type of content is to attract local people. Because that content, when you post content about Jacksonville, as an example, let's say you would post a video why people are moving to Jacksonville or why this event is so big in Jacksonville, right? If you post that type of content, what the social media platform is going to do is going to show it to people that are interested in Jacksonville, right? So you're going to have a bunch of people see that content. It's going to drive up the viewership of your profile. And then by the later time, right, when they move out of the area, right, or maybe somebody they're looking to get into the area, right? Maybe their mother is moving into the same local area, right? Well, now you're going to be the person that they'll remember. So one of the biggest things here, and this is why this is one of the biggest opportunities right now for organic social media, right? Is because this is a very indirect strategy. So everybody typically in real estate, they like that direct strategy where they go ahead and say, hey, you want to sell a house, buy a house, I'll do the business. But with this sort of strategy, you're going to be able to drive up a lot more views, a lot more engagement to your profile, and you'll be able to build that personal brand, which is something that we do to indirectly influence people, again, to knowing you, liking you, trusting you, right? Getting that reputation built in so you can now do more business. So for that, again, we'll have the full SOP in the document. You can check that out. But it's one of the strategies you want to be certainly leveraged. Now let's go to the strategy number 7. That is YouTube advertising for listing acquisition. So many people that try to run ads before, right? But they're really getting these low quality leads on social media. And one of the best ways to actually get those high quality leads is to run ads on a video platform like YouTube. Now, for video ads themselves, you want to be doing not just any kind of video ads, but video ads targeting homeowners. And there are best targeting options for this. So if you're somebody that's never run ads before, don't just try to run ads with any sort of targeting, right? You need to know the best targeting as well. So YouTube specifically has the best targeting options. So if you go to a platform like Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, right, it doesn't have just the same capability to do that. Now, additionally, YouTube allows you to get warm leads, right? So if you're somebody that's tired of calling 200 leads just to get one appointment, well, YouTube is a platform where you can get 1 in 10, 1 in 20 conversion rates into actual client. So YouTube advertising for listing acquisition is also one of the best strategies to do this. With YouTube, you can really get that local celebrity effect. So people see you on TVs, they see you on their computers, they see you on their phones, and they see you through videos to really get to know you. It's not only about getting a good ROI, but it's also about building the long term, building the situation where a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later down the road, you don't have to run ads anymore. So that's the whole point with YouTube advertising. You can really go from a regular lead buyer into being a local micro celebrity, somebody that everybody wants to work with. So YouTube advertising is really powerful for that listing generation. And obviously, as you start to generate those listings, you're going to obviously by default generate a very powerful marketing mechanism, which is the property itself. So as we know, properties generate buyer clients on their own, right? You really be able to hold open houses, all those different things. But one of the things people actually neglect or are not really aware of is meta advertising for buyer clients. So what you want to be doing is once you get that property is create a property tour of that property. And now you want to be running advertisements for that property on Meta. And Meta finds buyer leads for extremely low cost per lead while optimizing for high quality of leads with AI when you set it up the right way. So what you want to be doing is then to create that property tour, run it on Meta ads, generate buyer leads, and that way you're staying in front of the whole market, both sellers and buyers. Now, the ninth one is going to be omnipresence advertisements. So really what you're doing here, right, is you're generating a bunch of leads. You're generating seller leads, buyer leads, both from organic and paid advertising. But at that point, once you start to generate those leads, they're a little bit like popcorn kernels. So if you think about a process like buying a house, you're not going to just buy any house right away, right? There's a process that goes into it. It has to be the right timing. You have to have the money. You have to get the mortgage, right? There's all these things that go into the process. The kids need to go to the school at the right time, at the right place, right? There's all these different things going on. So with real estate marketing, one of the things you want to be doing is to take that database that you're building, take that database that you already have, and put them into something we call the omnipresence advertising. So essentially, what that is retargeting your entire database with that strategic personal branding content. And here, the beauty of this strategy is that this is extremely low cost. If you have 10, 15 posts a month that you do, right, and you put them to this omnipresence campaign, well, that is something you could run for a very small amount to your database. We're talking about less than $200-300 a month, and you can stay in front of thousands of local people that are in your database right now that are already pre-qualified leads. So this is something that then has a super high ROI because if you're spending $200 a month, but you're getting one listing a month, which is 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 per listing per client in terms of lifetime value, well, now we made a process where the return on investment is over 100x. So that is something you also want to be running with a super small amount. And you want to be running this year round, so with a very small amount, and then that way generate that high ROI. Now, lastly, the best strategy for your social media and getting results with it is actually your internal beliefs and mindset. So often I see people essentially thinking of social media as something that's like secondary, right? Something that they can just do whenever they get a chance, like something that's like not super important, right? But really, when you think about social media and your personal branding and all of these online systems, These are the drivers of your business, right? So if you think about a car, if the car does not have gasoline in it, well, it's just not going to move. The same thing applies to your social media. That is basically the gas of your car, of your real estate business. And you want to be doing social media and prioritizing social media in your business, prioritizing these online things, especially in this day and age, because this is something that will be driving your business. This is something that will be giving you those leads. Those people are going to talk to you, right? So ultimately, the first thing to make sure is you prioritize the social media and make it priority, right? Make it something that's important to do, make it something that's important to be done well. So one of the best ways to do that is obviously getting some help with your social media, right? The help so with help with social media is so important because for most real estate agents, they're not social media experts, right? They're really real estate experts. And social media changes every single day, right? Right now, we're talking about obviously AI, right? All these different things, but maybe a year later, it's going to be something completely different because just a couple years ago, it was the reels. And before that, it was the advertisements, right? There's always new trends, always new things you want to know about, always new tools, always new changes. And if you don't have any help with that, I mean, it's extremely difficult to be able to do this strategically. So one of the best ways to do that is get some help, get somebody to work with you on this, pay some money, right? Get some advice on this. It doesn't have to be our company, right? But really any company you work with is really going to help you move the needle at least a little bit, get your level of knowledge, get your level of skills higher. And lastly, right, it is really a question of simply execution, right? So if you're somebody that's really diligent, right, you work hard in your real estate business, like you are somebody that's really putting in the effort, right? You obviously want to make sure you're putting in the effort in the right place. So sometimes people get stuck, right, where they think that it's only a question of just working harder, like just putting in more hours. But if that time is just going into driving clients around, right, or calling leads that are just not interested, right? You're just spinning your wheels. So one of the best ways you can do on social media and best things you can do, right, is just allocate time on your Google Calendar. Put in 4 to 5 hours a week, make some slots, right? So 2 hours on Wednesday at 12 to 2, you're just making videos, right? And then from Monday, right, when it's 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, right now you're planning out your strategy. You're working on your funnels, you're working on your advertisements. And it is really simple as that. So if you put in consistently 4 or 5 hours a week and just putting in that effort every single week, it's really going to start to stack up. And it's not something you're going to be able to really even notice as far as your time spent. Because most realtors I talk to, right, they work 80, 90 hours a week already. They work hard. So if you put in 4 to 5 hours, you cut out something else, put it into social media, it's going to generate you massive results. Again, if you want to get the full document for free, just comment real estate social media strategies under this video. We'll send that to you for free. You can check out the document and we'll go from there. So hopefully this video was useful. If it was, just leave a like and a comment down below and we'll see you in the next one.